kick the field goal. It'll be Jason Gingell out of the hold of Mesco. Good snap, good hold, and the kick is blocked. Appalachian State has stunned the college football world. One of the greatest upsets in sports history.
Live from Chatterbox Sports Studios, it's Off the Bench with Thom Brennaman.
Well, good morning, and a good Tuesday morning to you. Welcome to Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. We come your way Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to noon Eastern Time. You can find us on YouTube/Chatterbox Sports. We ask you to flip on that subscribe to the show and the notification switch as well. If you prefer to join us in podcast form, and that's perfectly fine, please do. Search Off the Bench with Thom Brennaman, and you're dialed in. All right, here we go. Bengals head coach Zach Taylor met with the media yesterday and walked through a laundry list of players he hopes to have back when the Bengals go to Pittsburgh in 2 weeks. They're off this week, remember. Mike Hilton broke his pinky in 3 places against Cleveland last Monday, then had to have surgery to repair some of the ligament damage in that finger. And he told everybody he will be on the field against his former team next Sunday night. The big question, of course, outside of Jamar Chase, he will not be playing against Pittsburgh. But the big question is when DJ Reader will return. The team opted, as you know, not to put him on injured reserve. They hope he's ready to be back in the lineup against the Steelers. They won't make a final decision on that until next week. Monday Night Football, the Ravens take it to the Saints, 27-13 at the Superdome. It was no contest. And you got to feel for Andy Dalton. I mean, it's sad. He throws a 16-yard completion on the first offensive play of the game. Then the Saints manage 25 more yards total over basically the next 2 quarters till the final drive of the first half. They got a chance to get right back in it. There's a receiver that's as open as it is from Hamilton, Ohio to downtown Cincinnati. And I don't know if the guy ran a wrong route, but Dalton overthrows him by 10 yards. Wide open in the end zone. Andy has not won a primetime game since 2018. He's not won on Monday Night Football since 2014. Not all his fault. They couldn't run it. They went for 2 yards a carry. And he was sacked 4 times. Baltimore is all alone atop the AFC North at 6-3. That's 1 game better than Cincinnati. Football world still in shock. We told you right at the end of the show yesterday, Frank Reich was fired as head coach of the Indianapolis Colts. This guy, during his tenure, started 7 different quarterbacks and was still 7 games over 500. His downfall, you may remember, started last year when they were 9-6 with 2 to go, and they only had to win 1 game. And they got embarrassed by Jacksonville the last game of the season. Out they went, no playoffs. Jeff Saturday, a 6-time Pro Bowl center for the Colts. He's been working for ESPN, and apparently he's also allowed to be an advisor to the Colts. I don't know how in the world that happens. How can you be a quote-unquote member of the media and at the same time be working for an NFL team that you're talking about? No idea. But they decide to name him as a new head coach, interim head coach. His only experience as a coach was for a high school team in Georgia. Maybe the biggest news, and we don't know anything definitively yet, is about Josh Allen. We touched on this yesterday, the quarterback of the Bills. He is getting that right elbow looked at again today for a potential damage in there. That's a nerve that they normally have to fix, a ligament. when you undergo Tommy John surgery. It's unknown if Allen will play this week, and it's the biggest game in the NFL, make no mistake about it. That would be Buffalo against the red-hot 7-1 Minnesota Vikings. College football doesn't get any bigger than this. It's Maction, boys and girls. Casey McAllister, Paul Fritzner, good morning, boys.
Good morning. Good morning, Tom. How are you today?
I'm doing good. Very excited about Maction tonight because the Ohio University Bobcats are going about, 11, 12 miles up the road here?
Right up the road.
Right up the road to dreaded Oxford, Ohio. I love Oxford, Ohio. I just don't love Miami. Big rivalry. OU and Miami tonight. Maction.
You going to be there?
No, I'm not.
Oh, you don't want to go?
No. I'm going to get back and watch y'all. This is one of my favorite nights of the year. You know, we don't get into much politics here on the show, nor are we going to, but I really enjoy reading about politics and so on and so forth. So this is one of those nights I just camp out in front of the tube and watch that stuff all night. No sports, no nothing. But I will be clicking back and forth to see how the Bobcats are doing.
This is why you get a second TV, right? Get the
I don't have one.
Man cave going.
Do they do that picture-in-picture stuff anymore? Are TVs made with that or anything? I remember the old days when it first started. Do they do that anymore?
I think some streaming services offer it.
Do they?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I honestly don't use it that much. I just throw a second screen up there. Maybe get it on the lap. What's the
you
time?
Put up a second television in where you're watching. You have two TVs.
Oh, we have this spare one. We have this really old brick square one that was like
brick.
It's real heavy. It's a digital one. It's got a DVD player built into the side of it. But it's got an HDMI port, so I can just plug my laptop in and throw a second screen up there if I want it.
Yeah, I mean, I would very frequently plug in. So when I was watching, I don't remember what I was I know. I was in the stock market doing day trading.
Yes.
And so I bought these monitors.
Right.
Just these cheap monitors. So I have 4 of them on my desk that I use with my computer. So I can put it's a big desk. I could put 5 different games on at the same time if I wanted to. And I might actually do that for some.
You still have that set up in your new crib?
I will set it up that way.
Okay.
What's the Thom Brennaman man cave look like?
Yeah.
No man cave.
No man cave?
No. Just sitting right there in the den. It's an open area, kitchen, whole thing, and just sit right there and settle in. I can click them all around when my son doesn't decide to come walking in the door and makes me crazy on NFL Sundays when he's got that red zone on.
You're not a red zone guy?
I can't stand it.
I love red zone.
I can't stand it.
It's funny you say that because I'm not a big red zone guy either.
Yeah. I mean, there's a time and a place for it. I get it. Especially last week when you had all those games coming down to the final couple of minutes, tight games. That's fine. But I like watching a game unfold and develop and how it plays out and all that kind of thing. And I don't have time to sit around like a lot of you to sit around and watch an entire football game start to finish. But red zone, I don't know. It's a little much. A big night in college basketball. You were down there last night watching your Xavier Musketeers. I sent you a text during the game.
You did.
Okay, so I wasn't sitting there watching any game in particular last night, but I click on my computer just to check some scores. And it's 9.5 minutes into the game. And I always the first thing I go to when I click on the score of these games is I go to team stats. I like seeing just what kind of how you get a good feel for what's going on in the game. So 9.5 minutes in, Xavier had, I think, a 17-15, 19-17, something like that lead against Morgan State. And I saw where the Muskies only had 2 field goals. One of them a 3. And I'm sitting there going, this doesn't add up. And then scroll down a little further, and I see that they had turned it over 10 times in the first 9 minutes, and they already had 11 free throw attempts to Morgan State's 1. What was going on down there?
Yeah, I mean, Morgan State, they play fast. They play real fast. they don't recover very well defensively, and that's their style. They press, they get up in you, and they want to foul a lot. And Xavier's defensive style, especially last night, Sean talked about it. Sean Miller talked about it after the game. He said, we made a conscious effort to not foul in this game. We did not want to foul. We didn't want to give them any points from the line. I think Morgan State only shot 3 free throws in the first half, and Morgan State just couldn't do anything defensively without fouling, but they also wanted to turn you over. It's kind of like, for Big East fans, kind of like a poor man's St. John's, where they try to run you up, try to score some points, but they also just try to turn you over and be scrappy. And, yeah, Xavier had 10 turnovers, I think, in the first 10 minutes, like you said, and then they only had 10 the rest of the way. Okay. So get some youth, get some experience.
All right, bottom line is they hammer Morgan State, and they get a big game from this young man, Sule Boom. Transfer, you said, from where?
UTEP.
UTEP.
Yep.
First game is a Muskie. He has 23. Sean Miller wins in his debut and his return to Xavier. The UC Bearcats beat Chaminade 98-55. David DeJulius.
Yeah, and Victor Locken looked good too. UC looked real good I know Chaminade's D2, but UC looked real good. Got some new pieces they got to figure out, but this is a big year for Wes Miller. I thought UC looked real good last night.
Okay. All right. So both the Bearcats and X win. Kentucky rolled last night, as did number 13 Indiana. 24th-ranked Dayton beat Lindenwood 73-46. Miami and Ohio University lose tight ones. The Bobcats lose at the buzzer on a 3. That hurts. And NKU lost its season opener, as we thought they would, to Kent State. Kent State's got a good program. So the lineup of the show today, we have Zim Hude, who's been found somewhere out in the woods outside of D.C. He's a woodsy guy, right? So he's going to join us at 10:30. 11 o'clock, Brian Billick. Really interested to talk to him about a number of things that are going on around the NFL. Big picture stuff here. And then, of course, the best 30 minutes in television, Tracy Jones at 11:30. Our big interview tomorrow, and it's going to be interesting to talk to Dr. Timothy Kremchek, because he, along with James Andrews, are the 2 most sought-after surgeons in the world if an athlete is going to undergo Tommy John surgery. It's basically an arms race between those 2 guys. Andrews, protege of Dr. Frank Jobe, as is Kremchek, who worked with Andrews. And whenever a baseball pitcher gets a news, they've got to get that ulnar nerve fixed. It's either Kremchek or Andrews. Going to talk to him a little bit tomorrow about this whole Josh Allen thing, that if indeed there is something in that elbow, how effective can the guy be? I'm sure it's a matter of playing through pain, but is the arm strength weakened and all those kinds of things? Had a really nice text exchange this morning with Dusty Baker. I reached out to him about being part of the big interview. And he can't tomorrow because he's got an owner with a meeting with the owner of the Astros. There was a lot going on there. Here in Cincinnati, maybe we weren't paying a lot of attention to it. But there was a lot of friction going on inside ownership, general manager of that Houston Astros team during the regular season. There was a lot going on there. And it'll be really interesting to see what happens here over the next couple of days. Astros win the World Series, as you know. Everybody's contract is up. I mean, does Dusty Baker think about walking away after winning the whole thing?
I didn't want to put you on the spot, but I was going to ask you, what do you think?
I don't know. I have no idea. I'm not that close with him. I like him quite a bit. I know him quite well, but I'm not necessarily close with him. I know he loves his job. His kids are all grown up out of the house. His son is still playing. He's a Northern California guy through and through, born and raised in Sacramento. He's in close to his mid-70s now, early 70s. He's got incredible energy and a way about him. I don't know. I mean, obviously when we get him on, and hopefully it'll be next week we get him on, that would be one of the first questions you have to talk about.
As we're saying that, Bob Nightingale just tweeted, Houston Astros owner Jim Crane spoke with manager Dusty Baker and GM James Click on Monday and plans to formally extend each of them a contract for 2023. So That doesn't necessarily mean he'll take it, I guess, but you're going to
it doesn't.
Extend him a contract.
I recall both were very hard-headed. I remember at the end of the 91 or 92 season, one or the other, Lou Piniella was really upset. His contract had not been extended by Marge Schott. And, I think both to this day, well, Marge, of course, has since passed, but Lou will tell you that he was too stubborn and too hard-headed and walked in the meeting the day after the season ended. He was angry, he was mad, was irrational, impatient, and wishes he would have signed that contract that eventually was forthcoming, and it didn't work out. And that was a bad mistake in Reds franchise history. Got to have everybody cool down a little bit. Much like you two, you need to cool down a little bit.
Casey shaved.
Casey, you're looking good.
Thank you.
I got to tell you, though, there are very few guys I think really look good in a beard. I thought you were one of them.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate that. It was just time. And plus, I promised the chat. I should have done it before coming out on Monday. I don't know if the chat remembers, but I promised I would shave if the Bengals won. So here's my make good. I shaved.
You're looking good. We've got the regular cast of characters on here today. Sir Boy Wonder. He tells me that I should have been head coach of the Indianapolis Colts.
You'd get them fired up.
Oh, yes, I would, if nothing else. I was one of the great youth basketball coaches in the history of Cincinnati.
How did we do?
City championships with both the girls' team and the boys' team.
Really?
And had 8 people on the team. Yeah.
How many?
At Terrace Park.
How many titles?
3 total.
Wow.
Get after people.
You need 2 more. Fill up the hand.
Guys like me can't coach anymore. I mean, I'm not kidding when I say this, because I was extremely vocal, very intense, very demanding, even with 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th graders. I mean, your job was to go out there and guard somebody, and if that guy scored, your ass is sitting next to me. And, I knew all the kids, my daughter and all her friends, my son, all his friends. I knew what they were all about. What made them go, the guy that needed the pat on the butt, the guy that needed the kick in the butt. That's not the way it is anymore. I went back and volunteered to come back as a coach, and I had a guy look me right in the eye, and he says, dude, I'm not so sure these parents in this day and age would want you coaching. Too fired up, too intense. Fine.
You won championships,
Participation trophies. Give them out. Give them out. Participation.
You won championships.
You got to win, baby. You got to win. That's what it's all about. Anonymous says I should be the GM of the Colts. Daniel's here, happy to catch us live for a change. Reed Mouse chiming in. Xavier needed that one. Okay. Well, I left my glasses in the house today, so I can barely see anything. Boom Shakalaka's here. Nice to have him back. Riley says he doesn't like the Baltimore Ravens. Did you guys watch any? Well, you didn't, Paul. You were at the basketball game. Yeah. What was the crowd like down there, by the way?
Really good crowd.
Really good?
Yeah.
Xavier has great fans.
Really good crowd. Yeah. Sean talked about that. That was the first thing he said in the post-game press conference was talking about the crowd. I was pleasantly surprised with how quickly the bowl filled up. It was a nice crowd.
Very nice. Casey, were you watching any basketball? Probably not. Are you a big, we've talked about you not being a big baseball guy. You're a big football guy. Are you a basketball guy?
Are you ready for this story?
I am.
Are you ready for this story? So I used to be really big into basketball, really big. When I was in 5th, 6th grade, I just loved it. Then everything changed my 7th grade year. We had a second team, and I was on that second team. Obviously, I wasn't the best player. Sure. But I was the best player on the B team. And this B team was coached by my dad. And one of my friends at the time's dad, who was very, very vocal, like you said. Right. And I was on a team with a bunch of kids who did not want to play basketball on the B team. So we proceeded to lose every single game, with me being the leading scorer. And we lost to a team called the Math and Science Club of Cincinnati. We lost to them by over 20 points.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basketball for me, after being coached by my dad, pretty much, getting on my ass, like, you got to carry the team, you got to score, you got to.
Sure.
By the time the end of the season rolled around, I was just fouling out of games. I just did not care at that point because my teammates didn't care. My dad was just trying to get me to get fired up.
Yeah.
So it ruined the sport for me.
Wow.
Up until I got older, till I got into college, and then I started watching NKU basketball. So I watch NKU basketball. I'll watch UC when it's on. I'll watch Xavier. But for a really long time, I just had a distaste for basketball.
Gotcha.
For a very long time. But now that we're into the basketball season, we're going to pick a team for me that's not NKU or UC or Xavier that I'm going to follow, and I'm going to be a devout follower to them for the whole season, root for them, and it's not going to be a blue blood. So
really?
So here's a criteria. I don't want to cut you off, Casey, but we decided this on the way to lunch yesterday.
Okay.
So do you know the random wheel generator, Tom? It's basically it's just a wheel. It's online. It's how we decide where we're going to lunch every day. You type in names of everything you want to type in, and you just spin the wheel and you pick something. So yesterday on the way to lunch, Casey said he wanted a team, so I said, okay, we'll take all the mid-majors out of it. We'll pick from the 6 major conferences in college basketball.
Okay.
But then I said, you know what, let's scrap the Pac-12 because that's too late. We don't want to make you watch the Pac-12, at 11:30 at night. So we scrapped the Pac-12. He said, well, I don't want the big names either. So we scrapped Kentucky, Duke, Kansas, and Michigan State, 4 big blue bloods. Scrapped them.
You know, I'm North Carolina ahead of Michigan State on that blue blood list. I mean, are you kidding me?
Well, those were the 4 that we settled on.
You ought to just take Carolina.
I would like North Carolina.
We weren't settled on North. We left North Carolina in for him.
Yeah, I would like North Carolina just because of Marty. Me and Marty could just.
I got to tell you, if you're going to do this, my suggestion would be, and I think it's a great idea. I mean, it sounds fun. Maybe all of us should do it.
We're going to do it live on the. We're going to do it live on the air.
I think that you have to pick a team, Casey, that you know is going to be on television regularly.
That's fair.
Right? So last night, I know it was a season opener, but everybody played last night. And unless you're a subscriber to that ESPN Plus, there are a lot of games you're not going to get.
Yeah.
But it's almost guaranteed every North Carolina game you're going to get on regular ESPN or whatever.
Yeah, and I do have ESPN Plus, so if it does manage to be something that isn't on all the time, I can still catch the game.
All right.
So it's not too big of a deal.
And it's got to be a power conference team. I mean, it's going to be SEC, Big 10, Big 12, Big East.
Yeah.
One of those. We'll pick it.
But we're going to do it live at some point. I don't know if it's.
You got to jump on a TCU bandwagon. They're ranked 14th.
They gave you a heart stopper last night.
Yeah, I already have been rooting for them in football. So.
Well, tonight is the night. Speaking of college football, this is the second week of the college football playoff rankings that come out. And it's going to be really interesting tonight. I'm interested to hear what you guys think, right? No doubt about it. Okay, the top 3 in any particular order. Georgia's going to be number 1. You'll either have Ohio State or Michigan, 2 and 3. And then after that is where it gets interesting. Because does Tennessee go from number 1, losing against Georgia? Do they stay in that top 4 with 1 loss? Or does TCU, who is all the way at 6th in the first ranking, behind Alabama, who had 1 loss. Now Alabama's got 2, adios. They were behind Clemson, adios, after getting killed by Notre Dame. Does TCU go to number 4 and Tennessee slip behind there? Now, Casey, I have my Power 5 rankings. This is the way I would line them up if I were a voting member, and I am not. But I would have Georgia 1, Ohio State 2, Michigan 3. I would put TCU in at 4, ahead of Tennessee. Your thoughts, gentlemen?
I actually like your list, Tom. I like it a lot. I think Tennessee deserves to be at 5, mainly because in the future that Michigan and Ohio State are going to come down anyways. And TCU, if they manage to slip up, that gives Tennessee a chance to move back into the top 4. Now, I haven't looked at Oregon's schedule. We already talked about the LSU stuff, or the only chance they have to make it is by winning the SEC championship.
Yep.
Looks like
so we think. So we think. I think that's a logical explanation. We said that yesterday, but I mean, you never know some of the chaos that could transpire here with some of those teams.
Yeah, and I'm just looking at Oregon. They play Utah, which I was really high on them early on in the season. They're decent. I don't know if they're better than Oregon. And then they play Oregon State and Washington.
Washington had a big win over the weekend.
Did they?
Those are not 3 layups. Is that Oregon Utah game at Utah?
It is in Oregon.
Eugene.
It's at Oregon. Yep.
In Eugene. Okay, but then they would have to play, like everybody else, a conference championship game, right? There's a Pac-12.
There's a Pac-12. I thought they scrapped the Pac.
I thought they brought it back.
I
thought they brought it back. The top 2 teams in the conference.
Great pub for the Pac-12.
Play. Oh, it's great pub. There are a lot of people watching right now out in Pac-12 country. I have no doubt at all.
But to finish my thought, though, I just do not like Oregon in the top 4. I really don't. Unless they can manage to get into the 3rd or the 2nd spot, which is not going to happen, they're going to have to play Georgia again. And the committee is not going to make that matchup happen again. Bo Nix was terrible against Georgia.
Been good ever since, though. I mean, look, I beat up on the Pac-12, but I will give credit where credit is due.
Pac-12
is having a great year.
Pac-12 championship. It's been around since 2011, and this year it's going to be played at Allegiant Stadium in Vegas.
Okay. And right now, the top 2 teams in that conference are Oregon and who? UCLA? Or SC?
USC.
That's another team we never talked about, SC.
Lincoln Riley always just manages to sneak in the playoff.
And then they choke it off when they get there.
Yeah.
Well, do they choke or do they just play a really good team? And his team's
they're great offensively. Year in and year out, I keep staring down at this thing because I can't see.
we need to get you some readers.
I mean, it's really I have them everywhere, and then I walk out the door and I'll put in a car, and then I'll walk in the house, and I always try to leave a pair in the car, and I mean, getting old stinks.
Yeah, but
Brian Billick says he's waiting in line to vote. He might be a little bit after 11.
Okay.
But
to finish the thought, right now it's sitting probably at Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, TCU. Those are probably your top 4. And then I think Tennessee probably, if they win out, I think they managed to sneak in at 4. And then you get a rematch between Georgia and Tennessee, which was not a terrible game. It was a
tail kicking. I mean, that game was a tail kicking.
Would you rather have that or Oregon?
That's a good question. It's a really good question. I mean, I know that I beat up on the Pac-12 and I beat up on Oregon, but I mean, look, you can't argue if they were to win out after losing the first game of the year, if they were to win out against some decent teams in that conference, and we talked about it yesterday, there are a number of them that are ranked. They were having to play every single one of them, SC and Utah and all this sort of stuff. It'd be hard to imagine if they won the Pac-12 championship and ended the season on what would be a 12-game winning streak, if you include the conference championship game. It would be hard to imagine that they would be left out.
Yeah, that's what I'm afraid of. My hope is Georgia, Ohio State, TCU, Tennessee. I think that would be a fun college playoff football.
Well, I think Michigan's better than Tennessee.
Right, but
I really do. I think Michigan is a superior team without a doubt. And I think Ohio State's a superior team.
So you think if one of those teams loses?
It's not going to happen, no. It won't, because the loser of that game does not get to play in the Big Ten championship. And unlike the SEC this year, and for that matter, the Pac-12, if you believe the rankings, I don't necessarily believe them, but the Big Ten's down. And so, that's not going to be some juggernaut showdown in the Big Ten title game, whether it's Illinois or whoever comes out of that side of the bracket to play Ohio State, Michigan, the winner of that game. I just don't think that the loser of the Ohio State-Michigan game, they're not going to play in a conference championship game, and they're not going to get enough credit for how good they are, quite honestly, because of the strength of schedule. I mean, Michigan's strength of schedule out of conference is embarrassing. I mean, if I'm the athletic director at Michigan and my team gets beat by Ohio State, and as good as they are, I get left out of the college football playoff, I mean, I got to be blaming myself for who we schedule.
Yeah.
They used to play Notre Dame every year in some of these teams. Yeah. Every year. Okay?
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden that Ohio State win over Notre Dame slowly but surely starting to look a little bit better as the season goes on. Didn't look so good for a long time. But, I mean, they played nobody. Good Lord. But they got a good team. And I give Harbaugh all the credit in the world.
Well, I think the Ohio State-Michigan game is going to tell us a lot. Because if it's a blowout one way or the other, I don't think it will be. But if it is, then that team that got blown out, that won't even be a conversation, like you said. And then Tennessee. Does Tennessee squeak in? I think Tennessee's the question mark because TCU controls their own destiny. So if TCU wins out, there's no question. And if they lose, then they're out.
And they've got a tough schedule the rest of the way because they play at Texas this week, which is going to be a big game. Texas is capable. There's no doubt. They got players. And they got a good quarterback in Ewers. And that game is in Austin.
They're a touchdown favorite.
And then who is?
Texas.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. Yeah. And then you have Baylor, who, everybody had in the top 10 going into the year. They stumbled around and fumbled around. Well, all of a sudden now they're getting it rolling. I think they're 6 or 7-3. You got to go down there and play them. That's TCU's biggest rival. And then you finish against Iowa State. So, I mean, if TCU beats Texas on the road, beats Baylor on the road, finishes against Iowa State, plays in a Big 12 championship game, they should get in. But the rankings come out later tonight. Is our buddy here yet?
No, he's not. He's not here yet. So while we wait, I have a question for you, Thom. And this was a discussion that we had on the box lunch, and I just want to know what your thought is. Maybe we'll pose it to the chat as well. Is the college football product better than the NFL product?
Well,
for viewers,
look, I think if let's put it this way. To answer that question, I think you need to take out your allegiance to a team. Okay, because if the Bengals are playing and Alabama's playing Georgia, okay, your rooting interest are going to be far, far more focused, laser focused on the team you're rooting for. So if you're comparing the pro game to the college game, you got to pull it out. But there are two things a college game has that I think make it a superior product to the pro game. Number one, every game matters. Every single game matters. And it's a shame, as we talked about yesterday, that as long as they continue to play with this 4-team college football playoff, and I know they're going to expand it to 12, and that will really change college football for the better, in my opinion, because I think as the season goes on, whether we're talking about Oregon, whether we're talking about LSU, whether we're talking about some of these teams that lost early or maybe lost a couple early, then they get it rolling, but it's too late for one reason or another to get into the top 4. Someone asked on the chat yesterday, do I think that a number 12 seed could beat a number 1 seed? If LSU were to be a 12 seed, and right now they were ranked 10th, okay? So let's put it this way. If you have 12, you got 8-9 playing one, and you do that whole thing like you do. You'll have some buys in there somewhere along the way. But do I believe LSU as a 10 seed could beat a number 3 seed? You better believe I think they could beat a number 3 seed. Absolutely. There's no doubt in my mind. So every game matters, and I just think that the whole enthusiasm, pageantry of the college game makes it a superior product. Are the players as good? Of course not. They're not. And they make mistakes, and they're college kids, which I think adds to the beauty of it. Guys aren't getting paid, hundreds of millions of dollars and all this kind of thing, although NIL, some of them damn near close to it. What do you think?
I originally said the NFL is a better product, mainly because I think it's cleaner, and I think the game is more fun to watch. But when you put it like the way that you phrased it, to where the games will still matter a lot every week to make it into the college playoffs for every college team. Because, some of them are going to be wanting to buy. Some of them, if they do lose, they can't risk going to a place, like LSU having to travel to, or people traveling to LSU in Death Valley or whatever. That would be a miserable place to play in the playoffs for any of those like Pac-12 teams or anything like that who aren't used to an SEC crowd. I think I'm starting to lean more towards a college eventually, but right now, the way it's set up currently, I think the NFL is a better product just because it feels like none of the games matter in college. You already know like Georgia's going to make it. You already know either Ohio State or Michigan's going to make it. So there's your two. And then we're just kind of sitting here talking about either Tennessee, LSU, Oregon, and TCU. Those are the only other 4 teams that are going to potentially make it in there as the other 2 spots. So to me, it's like the NFL is so wide open, and you never know who's going to win on any given week.
That's true.
So any game can be enjoyable to watch.
Well, and it's created, it's almost like and Paul Daugherty uses this term a lot. It's a socialist league is what the NFL is. It's incredible that you get 30 uber capitalist entrepreneurs that own these teams to agree on the way the structure of the sport is set up, because it's socialism. You pool all the money, TV, whole 9 yards. Yeah, you'll get a team makes a little more off their skyboxes and all that kind of stuff. But because of that situation, you have a lot of mediocrity out there. How many teams out there right now are 5-4, 4-5, leading the division, right? 6-3, where, like you said, you're not sure week to week who would win when those teams play. And that's what the league wants. It creates fan excitement, fan interest, unlike baseball, which doesn't have that same financial structure. What do you think, Paul? What do you like better? You like the pro game better.
I think watching a pro game to me is more enjoyable on the field, but the pageantry of college and being able to turn on that LSU-Alabama game the other night, to me, there's just not enough of that LSU-Alabama game. If you sit here and we think about the games this year that stand out in our mind, we think of LSU-Alabama and we think of Tennessee and Alabama and Neyland Stadium. If you stayed up that night, you could have seen USC and Utah. But there's just not enough of those games. And it goes back to the same point that I made the other day about these big teams. We talk so much about Michigan and their strength of schedule, and that lends itself to the NFL where any team could win on any day. And I'm just sick of these teams, and it's not the fault of anybody. I don't fault Michigan or their athletic department or Jim Harbaugh or anybody for not wanting to schedule these tough teams in the non-conference, because there's no incentive for them to schedule these tough teams if they lose.
Well, there might be. That's not necessarily true. I know what you're getting at here, but that's not necessarily true, because I really believe at the end of the day that if Ohio State beats Michigan, and that is not a given, but if Ohio State beats Michigan, I am convinced that out-of-conference schedule will cost them a chance in the college football playoff.
But here's from my point of view, if I'm the athletic director or Jim Harbaugh, I know that just by winning that Ohio State game, I'm in. That's the flip side of it, that instead of risking losing maybe 2 or 3 big non-conference games, I'll just focus all of my energy on winning literally the one game in my season that matters, which is Ohio State. You win that game, and you're in. Sure, you had to beat Penn State at home. Penn State's got a good team this year, but they're not Ohio State.
Right.
If you are Michigan, you have one game. That can't happen in a sport. You play 11, 12 games before you get to a playoff or to the postseason. You have one game that matters. And once the playoff expands to 12 teams, coaches won't be so nervous about losing. You'll be able to afford to lose 1 or 2 of those games because you'll see that 12th team get in with 2 losses. Okay, so Alabama would make the playoff.
Yeah.
And if Alabama makes the playoff at 2 losses, then you start to have these bigger name coaches, these bigger name athletic directors schedule these games that will matter in September or in October outside of their conference schedule, and it just makes the whole sport more enjoyable. Yeah. So I think that that's where the product of college will be better eventually once you have those things start to come in.
I think the major thing, like, I love the changes that they're going to do, but it requires another step to evaluate these teams because, like you said, Michigan has gotten away with literally nothing on their schedule, and if they were to value games differently, like a team that plays like TCU, who's played 4 or 5 ranked opponents, they should be a higher seed than Michigan, technically, right? Like, maybe Michigan is better, but if they valued the games differently and ranked teams based off of strength of schedule, I think we would have a better product overall. Because
we're going to get there.
Yeah,
we're going to get there.
Yeah,
and I'm sure, knowing Jim Harbaugh, and I've known him a long, long time. When he was a draft pick by the Bears, and I was working at WGN in Chicago, I had to work there all winter after announcing the Cubs games during the season. And during the Bears season, I had a number of obligations with the station, pregame show, postgame show, talk shows, morning drive sports, that kind of thing. And Harbaugh and I used to do his weekly radio show together, where he'd come in and we'd tape a 25-minute segment. And he was a hell of a player, man. I mean, boy, a lot of the younger generation will not remember Jim Harbaugh as a player. He was a heck of a player, man. Tough, leader, all those things. You knew he'd be a coach if he wanted to. He grew up in a football family. His dad was a coach. His brother's a head coach, obviously, with the Ravens. And then he went out to California, got a little weird. Got really weird. Out there first at San Diego and then to Stanford and, all that kind of thing, and the NFL with the Niners. But I always got along with the guy. I mean, most of the guys I worked with at Fox, they couldn't stand him. They could not stand him because he could be very standoffish, short, when he'd come into a room and you'd meet with him before doing a 49ers game. But I guess it was just our relationship from going way, way back that I got along with the guy fine. But he's a heck of a football coach, man. I mean, you knew sooner or later that Michigan thing, they were going to get it going. And he has got it going exactly the way he wants it to look. Defense, run the ball, tough. And that's going to present a major challenge for Ohio State when they meet in 3 weeks, less than 3 weeks now, in Columbus, Ohio. Zim here yet?
No,
Are we doing this drill again today? I just texted the guy.
I don't know.
All right.
I don't know where he's
All right. We'll take a break, and I'll shoot him a text and see what's happening. We're back in a moment.
Okay.
At United Dairy Farmers, we've perfected freshness in our family bakery, where we use only the finest ingredients, like thick, high-quality glazes on our signature donuts, before delivering them fresh from bakery to store every day. UDF, made for you.
If your AC or furnace is struggling, turn to the experts at Bartell's Heating and Cooling. Their certified technicians get the job done right the first time. And if you need a new unit, Bartell's will give you upfront pricing with no hidden fees. Plus, ask about Bartell's 0% interest financing for 60 months. Learn more at bartellsheatingandcooling.com. Bartell Seating and Cooling, for a comfortable way of life. Eli's Sports Bar and Grill, proudly sponsoring high school football with 3 locations in Mason, Liberty Township, and Ross, Ohio. Our 10-foot screens guarantee a great view from every seat in the house. Eli's Sports Bar and Grill, the best place in Cincinnati for sports, food, and fun.
Where can you turn when you're in pain? Turn where more high school, college, and pro athletes turn. Where your neighbors and weekend warriors turn. Turn to Beacon Orthopedics and Sports Medicine and get superior care on your schedule. That's the Beacon difference.
Check out our fresh arrivals at Jake Swinney Used Cars. Over 250 used vehicles weekly. All makes, all models. From economy to luxury, Jake Swinney, the original used car superstore.
And you look this up in a medical book, he's got FSB.
FS what?
FSB. It's short for fatal sperm backup.
Oh, my God.
Tom, see, the married men know what I'm talking about. I didn't have this until I got married, but I've got the affliction a little bit at times. And Tom, do you ever suffer now that you don't have that job with Fox and you're not bringing home the big checks? Do you have FSB?
You know what? I get it. I totally get what you're saying.
There's a lot of truth to that.
I can't believe I'm admitting this on a show we're just starting. That we're talking about the acronym of FSB.
What is
that
it?
What you said?
Say it, Tom.
FSB.
No, not the acronym. Say the whole thing. The 3 words.
Sperm backup. Is that right?
There we go. Okay. Hey, Tom, you know, we've experienced it since we got married, but ask those 2 guys, the producers. Now, they've experienced that their whole life, so they really don't see any adjustment. They've experienced it. They've had it their own life.
Well, I thought you were making the argument that this only hits married men. I thought that's what you were saying. These guys aren't married.
Well, I know, but they're not getting any. So they have FSB.
If I'm giving you some advice, I would stay away from gritties. I would just keep it to a simple 2-step. And I think baby steps.
Whoa. All right, welcome back to Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. I don't know where our guy Zim is. Second day in a row. He told me yesterday he just plumb forgot, and I admire that. You said that, Paul.
Yeah.
The guy, hey, we all screw up. I mean, no doubt about it. I had a really cool thing happen to me this morning, and before we get into our Power 5 NFL rankings, and we'll debate a little bit about that. So I'm at UDF, right off Ward's Corner in 275 there. I go there every single morning, and I pull up there, and I get a cup of coffee, and I go to start backing out my car, and they got the gas pumps there, and there is this monster truck there. I mean, like it's an energy truck with the what do they call it? The thing that you can raise it up and fix the power lines.
A cherry picker.
So I start to, and of course your natural reaction is I can't back my car up because this thing's so big, and you're sitting there going, ugh. Well, all of a sudden, I see the guy kind of giving me one of these, like back on up. This guy maybe in his mid-30s, and he helps me to how close I was to his truck to start to pull out. And so I roll down my window, just say thank you. And the guy says, Mr. Brennaman. And I said, well, that's my dad, Mr. Brennaman. I said, I'm Thom. I said, what's your name? He says, my name's Derek. And I said, how you doing, Derek? He says, good. I said, what are you up to? He says, well, I'm getting ready to fill this truck of mine up. Sorry I got in your way there. He says, but I'm on my way down to Pensacola, Florida today. I said, really? He says, yeah, we're going down in preparation of the hurricane. And when the hurricane hits, and it's supposed to hit, and good Lord willing, it's not bad, but it's supposed to hit the eastern seaboard of Florida on Thursday, they're talking about. And this guy's going down there to help people and get their energy restored should it be knocked out.
Wow.
And I thought to myself, you know what? That's really cool. There's a guy who, he's got this long day ahead of him. Lord knows how long his days might be once he gets down there. But he's going down there. Yeah, he's getting paid, but he's going down there to help people, and good for him.
Yeah. Do you remember over the summer here in Cincinnati when there was that freak storm for about 4 hours that knocked the whole city out? Do you remember seeing all the power trucks that were lined up coming from everywhere, the Carolinas, everywhere, Duke Energy just bringing power? I mean, I didn't have power that day for the whole day. We lost it for over 24 hours, and it was just – they said it was the biggest electrical outage in Cincinnati in decades. And I remember seeing all the trucks coming in from the Carolinas and everybody that came in to help out. So I think the power – industry is a big everybody helps each other industry.
No doubt about it.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. So we wish Derek safe travels. If you know Derek, tell him we talked about him on the show today.
I got one for you here, Tom.
Yeah.
So last night it was a little before midnight. White Castle was the only thing open.
Nice. Haven't been here in a while, but it sounds good even now.
Get some sliders in you, some cheeseburgers, no pickle.
Oh, dude, come on. You get the onions?
Extra
if you get the onions, you got to get the pickles.
Pickles got a little too much.
And cheese.
Cheeseburgers with extra onions.
How many did you get? Dozen?
5. I was hungry, though. No, but I didn't get any because I roll up to the window. I've never heard this before. I roll up to the drive-thru thing, and they go, the grill is a 45-minute wait. You can wait if you want or get some fries. I said, I'll see you tomorrow.
The grill
has a 45-minute wait.
They were backed up?
I guess so.
That must be like DoorDash stuff, that kind of thing, Uber Eats, whatever it might be.
45 minutes. Yeah, but the grill, it sounded like they were having some sort of issue with the grill. 45-minute wait. So I went to Wendy's. They were still open until midnight.
Wow.
Got 2 cheeseburgers. Cost me $16.
Oh, God.
$16 at Wendy's.
Sir Boy Wonder's always on his game. I like this from Jolly Jolly. Zim is about as reliable as my power grid in California in the summer. This is embarrassing having to look down. I mean, but I like reading the comments, seeing what everybody has to say. Were you in the White Castle in Norwood?
No, it was not the Norwood White Castle. It's the one on my way home.
Okay. All right. Well,
I think that one's shut down, which was a disaster because that was the Xavier post-game meal for Paul Fritchner for quite a while. Not anymore. I think it's gone.
And what's that little dive bar you guys, the only bar you got there on Xavier's campus?
Dana Gardens, baby. I should have worn the hoodie today. I didn't wear it.
I've never been in that place.
It's got character to it.
You know what? Every time I drive by it, I say I want to go in there. One of these days, maybe I'll go down to a game this year and pop in there afterwards to Dana Gardens.
Get the whole Chatterbox crew down to a game this year.
I'm at least going to one, right?
Yeah, you'll go to one.
Yeah,
one of our viewers suggested that White Castle be a sponsor of the show. We're wide open. We talk about it all the time. If you'd like to be a sponsor of the show, maybe one of our regulars in the chat room, you own a business, you want to be a part of the show, we'd love to have you. All right, Power 5 NFL. Here's my Power 5. I want you guys to tell me how you feel about it.
All right.
Okay? Here we go. I got the Eagles. They're undefeated. I got the Chiefs, Vikings, Bills, Cowboys, all very shaky in my opinion. Look, every team's beatable, although the Eagles have not lost this year. We're starting to see cracks with Kansas City, in my opinion. We're starting to see cracks with Buffalo, in my opinion. We wonder about the injury to Josh Allen. The Cowboys went 4-1 without Dak Prescott. He's come back. They've won 2 in a row. So that's my top 5. How do you guys feel about that?
Well, Tom, we've talked about my stink list, and now that we've had time to compare to your top 5, the only thing I don't like on it is the Vikings. And I don't know if you saw, but they don't have an offense or defense in the top half of the league. I'm sorry. They're 15th in offense, which is barely above average.
Who's that, Minnesota?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I know that they just win, and that's all that matters in the NFL is winning. But, man, this team is just squeaking by teams that they should just be able to beat. I mean, it came down to a last-second field goal for them to beat the Wizards of all teams.
Okay, the Wizards are not an easy out. I know they're not a great team, but every week they're playing tight games. Anyway, I'm with you on like I said. I mean, I was shaky on all those, and you could have put Baltimore in there, right? As a 5. Was that, did we lose something here? You could have put Baltimore in there. They're 6-3. I think you could have put the Jets in there. They're 6-3. But tough to say. Is our man here? Zim's getting worn out on this show now, my man. I mean, getting worn out. And he's our buddy. Zim, are you there? You're alive. We thought you got lost in the woods in D.C. somewhere.
Can you hear me?
We hear you fine. Are you all right? We've been worried about you.
Man, it's a lot going on out here in the world, man. I'm just trying to get my life together. You see, I'm kind of scruffy myself. You know, we talked about the scruff, and I'm just getting my life together. Bengals coming off a big win. You know how it goes, man. It gets crazy.
Hey, have you talked to your guy Mixon since Sunday?
Yeah. We're out for blood now. And look, one thing, people get this confused. A lot of times I get this reputation. I'm going to do something crazy. I'm going to go crazy on these guys on the internet. One thing about me is I love Houday. I don't come back with receipts to do victory laps because I'm only here to win, right? But for sure, I'm looking for some people to be accountable and slander because he is a very good running back.
Yes, he is. Yes, and you and I talked about this, Zim, last week. And, I mean, you went back to the film room, and I had suggested to you I didn't like the fact that they weren't running the ball against Cleveland. 17 of the first 21 plays were passing plays. I don't know. I'm curious your opinion. I asked Casey and Paul this yesterday. I'm curious of your opinion. Did you think the Bengals were that good or the Panthers were that bad or a combination of the two?
Combination of the two, but it's the one thing that I've held my hat on every single day. Bengals fans got to understand. Sometimes we're talking about the opponent as though like we're not the defending conference champions or we're not the defending AFC North champion. None of these teams want to play the Bengals. I don't care what they tell you online. I don't care whatever they faking like. Oh, it's a one-hit wonder, whatever. Team NFL, if you look at the landscape of football outside of maybe like the Eagles right now, right? There's a balanced attack that you can lean on it. When you look at the Bills, their leading rusher is their quarterback, who might have Tommy John, right? When you look at the Chiefs, they have the third worst pass defense in the NFL. They really aren't really good at stopping the run, and they got ran all over in the first half of that game, and they lost their best weapon in Tyreek Hill. There are no juggernauts. But the one thing that I do know is that all 31 teams would take a Joe Mixon, and all 31 teams wish that they had the weapons that we do, and couple that with a top 10 defense on top of that as well. Bengals fans got to get out of this whole thing like thinking like these other teams are there. These teams talk bad about you, or they don't like us, or they say all these things or whatever because they wish their front office had the nuts to go draft a Jamar Chase after T. Higgins was already a number one on the wide receiver group. Like, come on, are we serious? Do you know that this wide receiving group is about to do something that hasn't been done in over 20-something years? 3 wide receivers at 1,000 yards. That doesn't just grow on trees. People need to stop faking like this team isn't the team to beat. They're the defending conference champions. If they play balanced football, the next 8 games, my promise to Houday is this. If you play balanced football, you guarantee win 5 out of 8. I don't care who we play. Out of the 8. So that gives you 10 wins. Now, you look at the landscape of football, it's tough. I get it. But I think that they can win 6 out of those 8. I honestly do. But it only is the only time you could beat the Bengals is if they try to be something they aren't. a pass-happy team that invites pass rushers to come and eat up their lunch. Like you said, they got to run the football. They run the football.
But Zim, I got to tell you, and that's where I agree with what you're saying 1,000%. But my issue is I don't know if the play callers in this operation agree with that 1,000%. The game the other day, and maybe it's taken them 9 weeks to figure it out. I don't know.
Right.
Maybe it was Carolina was so pathetic they figured why not run it, although they came out slinging it around.
I mean, it did take them 9 weeks last year to figure that out. Then they ran it like 30 times against Pittsburgh. They ran it 30 times against the Raiders.
Okay. Well, they got Pittsburgh.
Think about Joe Mixon in the Titans game. You don't win the Titans game without Joe Mixon in that game. That bounce to the outside and the different things he did in that game. The thing that made the Bengals look less than is the times when they're weak tackles and they invited one of the best defensive fronts to come and kill them. They did that again. Look at the losses: T.J. Watt, Micah Parsons, Myles Garrett, right? And then the Ravens game that you should have won or whatever, but you didn't run the football on critical points in that game. Those are that's the constant. If they don't know it by now, you said that I talked to Mixon or whatever. I'm telling you, he's in a different savage mode that I don't think people are aware of. I think he understands what people have said about him. I don't know if y'all saw his face, like on the sideline and stuff like that. He did not like that, I'm sure. And he's running probably different.
I'm sure.
So,
but you know, Zim, I made the comment, and here's the deal for me. I want to hear if you agree with this, and then we'll let you go. Here's the deal for me. I think they go and they beat Pittsburgh a week from Sunday, and they go to 6-4 on the year. I look at their schedule, and I am in full agreement with you, and we said this before you came on the show. I see cracks with Buffalo. I see cracks with Kansas City. I also see cracks with the Bengals. For me, I think the make-or-break game for this team is going to be the Tennessee game because I think Tennessee is a lot better than a lot of other people think Tennessee is. I think if Ryan Tannehill's at quarterback, and I'm not saying he's Joe Burrow, he's not Patrick Mahomes, he's not Josh Allen, he's not Jalen Hurts, but what he is a guy who will not lose games for you and from time to time can win games for you. And I am convinced beyond a shadow of a doubt that Tennessee would have beaten Kansas City the other night with Ryan Tannehill at quarterback. I think Tennessee, that is a huge game for the Bengals. I know we're getting ahead of ourselves, but your thoughts on that?
Oh, you're spot on. You know, like just like you hit on the run game, you know, the week on, that is the game. I mean, you go 7-4 at that point, you're in the driver's seat on a lot of different conversations. The thing that I'll ask you is this, the same way I led off in this show. Do you think that the Tennessee Titans want to go up against us? Do you know
but I'll tell you this, Jim, but I will tell you this. I know what you're saying when you say that. But I will tell you this.
You think they want to see Joey?
If there is one team in the NFL that has an attitude about them that I love personally, they have an attitude that they are not backing down to anybody at any time, anywhere. That's the Tennessee mindset. You agree with that?
100%. Let me tell you a quick story before I get out of here. I know I'm late. I'm sorry. Quick story. My childhood wedding is the head athletic trainer for the Titans. We were doing a boot camp like this 10 years ago or something like that. His name is Brian. That's my guy for life. His mom comes to the boot camp. And mind you, it's like 20 other people, whatever. He didn't say nothing to her. He didn't do anything to say, hey, mom, like, here's a hug. She was 2 minutes late. 2 minutes late. He had her in there doing suicides and everything. His mom threw up. His mom threw up at the boot camp. You know, you ever seen somebody work out so hard they throw up? Whatever. I threw out like one day. His mom threw up at that drink. No remorse, nothing. Mike Vrabel, the whole entire staff is locked in, and that's exactly how they rock. That's exactly who they are. They will punch you in the mouth. But the one thing I will tell you, from a skill set level, they have things that, we have things that they don't. Where they have that attitude and they have that mindset, DJ Reader can match that, and he proved that in the playoffs. Also, did you know in that game, that one wide receiver had a catch in that game? You think going to be good enough to beat the Bengals? You think that you could just run on the Bengals and that's going to be it? If the Bengals don't drop, I promise you, they're going to win 5, 6 out of the next 8. And will 10 wins get you into the playoffs? I think so. And I'm telling you, we're the scariest team that nobody wants to play. Nobody wants to be able to say, all right, let's stop Joe Mixon. Let's stop him let's load up 8 in the box. Okay, but shoot. Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd, Hayden Hurst, all these guys, now Trent Taylor, you got all these weapons that I got to account for. Nobody has that. Nobody. And Bengals fans better start operating like that. Like, you got to understand, we got something that nobody has got. And the window of opportunity is very small sometimes, Tom. And the window is right there, and I can see it. And we could run through this thing together. We don't have to play around with these windows anymore. I'm going to open it up for the next 10 years with Joey B. But right now, you telling me that the number one guys, the number one biggest threat to us now got a chink in their biggest armor? The AFC is wide open, Tom. Come on with me. Hop through the window.
But Zim, I'm with you all the way. You're my guy. I mean, you're my guy. You've been with us through thick and thin. You're my guy. What I want to do is the next time we have
Trace guy?
What?
Who is that Trace guy? He's like a legend. We're scared of this guy on Twitter.
Trace
Have you
Fowler?
heard about him?
Our boss?
He's the boss around here, Zim.
Hey, this guy has come into our Twitter community and scared the living daylights out of everybody that's in there. He comes in there and talks about these bets, and everybody just shuts up. Nobody talks, and they listen. He scared us, and he single-handedly lost the Browns game for us. He told us that we were going to lose the Browns game by a lot of points, and everybody got scared, and the energy was different. I don't want this guy coming back and talking. Trace is going to come back and start talking about, the Bengals going to lose, and everybody just, like, even me. I was like, who is this guy? And then he just leaves like the Grim Reaper. And then we were just sitting there. We were just talking about chili after that. Nobody even wanted to talk about football. This guy, Trace, is a demon. I don't know who this guy is. He's get him away from me. I don't know who he is. He was like, hey, Zim, it is me, Trace. And he came out of nowhere. And I was like, what? Who is it? 20 minutes just assassinated everybody's heart and their soul. Took it out their chest.
He didn't just
swear.
He didn't just do that.
Please don't play this for him.
You should go check out Paul and I's Twitter. He exposed us bad.
Zim, we went to war with Trace for a week, and we all lost. We all lost bad.
Went down bad.
All right. Well, Zim, here's the deal. The next time you're on, we got to have you and your partner in crime there, Ace Boogie.
Oh, yeah. He'll do it. He'll be
How's
on
he
time,
doing?
too.
Is he all right?
Not like me. He's doing good. He'll be on time. He's nothing like me. He's a good guy.
So before we let you go, you got the beautiful crib there behind you in the whole 9 yards. You getting out? Weather's still good, right? In the woodsy part of D.C. there, you're good?
Yeah, it's beautiful. The next time we come on here, man, I'm going to take you outside. We're going to go outside. I'm going to grab a laptop. We're going to walk out there. I'm going to show you.
I'd love to. See how the koi are doing and everything, right?
Now I'm going to take you to the back. I want you to see the trees because I told you last time, I'm growing every day. The leaves have not fallen yet, Hude. I'm still out here, and I'm still growing on these people every single day. I cannot be stopped. I'm telling you, Tom, the window of opportunity is there.
Zim, you to make
as long as Trace doesn't come through it. That's the only guy that can ruin this.
All right. Zim, have a great day, my man. Thanks for checking in.
Peace
we
out.
love you. That's Zim. Boy, he's beating down our boss. He's in the other room watching this stuff. Zim said there, near the end, Zim said, don't let him see this. He's sitting in there watching right now.
He did kind of rain on the parade.
He did. He put that seed of doubt on every Bengal fan's mind in that space that day. He sowed the seed of doubt, and then look what happened.
The Bengals game did just get flexed out of Sunday Night Football, by the way.
Did it?
During that interview. It's on CBS at 4:25. Chargers got moved to Sunday Night Football.
What is that game?
The Chargers game?
Yeah.
Chargers-Chiefs.
Yeah, that's way better. Because we're going to blow out the Steelers anyways. No one wants to see another stinky primetime game like that.
I don't think the Bengals will complain about that.
No, I don't think so either.
And that'll be a 4:25 game. And again, this is breaking news, and we talked about this. We thought they had to make that decision yesterday. Apparently, they had until this morning to make that decision.
Today. Yeah.
So, again, the Bengals game, for those of you that maybe were planning on doing something next Sunday night, move the plans up, because that will now be a 4:25 kick, back end of a CBS, I'm assuming, you said?
Yes, CBS.
Back end of a CBS doubleheader next Sunday. No more Sunday night. We thought they might flex that game out. And who did you say the Chargers are playing?
Chiefs.
That's a big-time game.
It is a big-time game.
It's a better game than the Bengals-Steelers game. It's a better game.
Big league game.
Well, I mean, you got Kansas City is what, 6-3 or 7? What are
Kansas City?
Yeah.
They are
7-2.
They are 6-2.
6-2, and the Chargers are 6-3, right?
5-3.
5-3. Okay, so there you go. I mean, that's a better game. At the end of the day, it's it is a divisional game like the Bengals and Steelers, but the Steelers are having a crummy year, and if you're putting them on Sunday Night Football, I get it. I get it totally. Okay, so we're waiting on Brian Billick. We mentioned that he was in a long voting line up outside of Columbus, Ohio. And so he said he might be a few minutes late. He has a link sent to him, I assume, right? We're all good there. What else? Since I can't read it, anything here interesting on the chat?
I'm going through the chat. Let's see here. Anybody have what?
Everett doesn't want me making predictions anymore.
Stop letting Casey make predictions. If Ohio State, OU, TCU, and UC were in the college football playoff, who do you root for, Tom?
Oh, are you kidding me? Come on.
TCU, right?
You said TCU.
No, I would be rooting for Ohio University, without a doubt. Not even debate. How could you? Who asked that question?
Steph Lorang.
All right, Steph, you're a good man, but no. I mean, come on. That's my alma mater. I love the Bobcats. That's a no-brainer. So that was our Bengals report, brought to you by Encore Technologies. Encore Technology provides IT solutions for a data-centered world with a suite of services from mobile computing to desktop to data center, supporting both centralized and work-from-home computing models to improve efficiency and productivity. Visit encore.tech. The path to innovation begins here. Let me see if no further word yet from Brian Billick.
I got something for the chat, actually. I'll put this up to the chat. We spent an hour on this yesterday and didn't come up with anything. I'm doing a college basketball show. It's a 10-minute Monday through Friday daily recap show, recapping all the local teams, how they played, a little national flavor too. But we couldn't come up with a name with it. If anybody in the chat comes up with a name for this show, I'll get you 2 tickets to any local game this season. Dayton, UC, Xavier. I'll get you 2.
How are you pulling that off?
Well, most of them are affordable. But if anybody comes up with a name that we use, not just throwing a name in there, if it comes up with a name that we use. So this
is for your college football.
Basketball.
College basketball show.
Yeah.
You say it's only going to be about 10, 15 minutes?
Yeah, it's a drive. It's your commute to work in the morning. You want 10 minutes to be able to stand around the water cooler and get caught up on UC, Xavier, NKU, Dayton,
Is this a preview show, a post-mortem show?
What? Post with a little bit of a preview for those shows, and it's all in podcast form. It's not live. It'll be on your phone when you wake up in the morning to go to work.
Okay.
So we have already talked about full court press. There's a million of those. It's got to be unique. You got to be able to punch it into your podcast app, and that's the only thing that shows up under that title. I threw out Porkoopoulos. That was a little too niche.
I think the Chatterbox Hoopla is great, but
the problem is that there's already a Hoopla basketball network.
I tell you, there's some good ones coming in here. I mean, you guys are kind enough not to take a shot of me looking as old as I am by when I bend over and try to read some of this stuff. There's some good ones here.
Yeah, we need something that when you look at the podcast app, that's the only thing that you find. Full court press, there's already a bunch of them. We talked about that yesterday.
Under the rim, above the rim, some of that stuff.
Yeah.
They're probably all taken.
I was trying to think of something that incorporated the Cincinnati flavor but wasn't so specific that it just pigeonholed you in. I don't know. We'll workshop it. But it's going to launch today, hopefully, if we can think of a name, because we already have everything else set for it. So, and now all 7 teams played last night. So, got a lot to talk about. Should be a good year.
Who were the 7 local teams that played last night?
UK, UC, Xavier, Dayton, NKU, Miami, and I guess Wright State didn't play last night.
So you're not including Ohio
tomorrow.
U or Ohio State in this? What about Indiana? Are they in that?
No, not Indiana. Ohio State, when they play bigger games, I'll talk about them, but Ohio State probably won't be in there for every show of every game.
Okay.
OU, if something newsworthy happens that we can talk about.
They have a good team again.
Everett has a good one. I like
Everett,
that one.
Nasty Natty Hoops. So we threw out Nasty Natty, but we weren't sure if that was too specific to talking about UC.
Okay.
We had Cincy Hoops Daily. That was a little too generic.
So, Paul, I did not get your opinion on your top 5.
The NFL?
Casey was starting to dissect some of my picks there.
Let's throw it back up there.
So there's my Power 5. And you know, I mean, I could have started juggling around 2, 3, and 4 somewhere. You can make a case Minnesota 1 loss could go to 2. That doesn't mean they're better than the Chiefs or better than the Bills or better than the Cowboys. But if you got to power rank them, they're the only other team that has 1 loss in the league.
I would have had the Bills at 1. I think the Bills are the best team in the league. I would have
even after losing to the Jets.
Yeah. I mean, it's the NFL. We talked about this already. Anybody can beat anybody, and I think the Jets are respectable. I'd have the Bills 1. I just think they're the team to beat. Let's throw it back up there. I'd put the Chiefs 2. I'd put the Eagles 3.
Wow. Really?
I'd put the Ooh. Am I really going to put the Vikings at 4?
No, don't do it.
I don't think so.
I mean, maybe you think Baltimore belongs in there.
No.
Some might. All they do is win, guys. All they do is win.
They are remarkably
They got a lot
consistent.
of guys hurt. You know, hear a lot of excuse making going on. Andrews didn't play last night. All they do is win.
Yeah.
Jets we talked about. Miami we talked about a little bit yesterday. Some of those teams. Seahawks in that mix.
Seahawks, can we have a conversation about the Seahawks?
Well, we're going to talk if Brian Billy gets out of the voting line. We'll talk to him about it. If not, we'll ask him to join us on Thursday. But this is a team, and I talked about him yesterday, about Pete Carroll. You know, I mean, his Geno Smith story is amazing.
It really is.
And he's handled himself like an absolute champ. He's not walking around playing that card, I'm keeping receipts and all that tired crap, you know, about people who used to beat me up. I saw where, you know, he was asked after they beat the Giants a week ago, you know, Giants, you know, cut him loose, didn't want him anymore. And he was nothing but completely grateful and thankful and appreciative of the Giants even giving him a chance to continue his career. He's handled everything beautifully, including his play on the field.
Yeah. I really would like to see – I like the Seahawks a lot. I want to see them play – I'm just looking at the schedule. I want them to win at home versus the 49ers and for them to play well against the Chiefs before I can consider them being like an actual serious contender. But I like them. I have them in my borderline good, I think. I believe.
You have the 49ers in that group, too. We've not talked about them.
I do. And I think the 49ers are underrated. The issue with them, it's hard to tell because they are one of those teams that just recently got a great player acquisition. You look at their losses this year, and they're not pretty, but they lost the Bears first week of the season against that terrible rainstorm. They had Trey Lance, rookie struggles. They beat the Seahawks 27-7. Pretty dominant fashion. Then they barely lose to the Broncos. That was miserable. 11-10. Destroy the Rams, which they stink. destroy the Panthers. They stink. Lose the Falcons. That was a surprise to me. And they lost the Chiefs 44-23. Beat the Rams again 31-14. This week, they play the Chargers at 8:20 Sunday night. If they beat the Chargers, I think my
So they're 4-4 or 5-4?
They're 4-4.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I feel like if they beat the Chargers, they're in the right spot. If they lose the Chargers, I'm going to reconsider putting them down to like borderline stink, because I have them there because of their defense, and I kept them there because of Christian McCaffrey. I think he's just I think he's one of the most dynamic players in the league, right behind Saquon and Lamar Jackson. I think he's that great. And if he can stay healthy, this team is going to go places.
I'm sending Billick a message that let's do this thing on Thursday, okay?
Okay.
Because I don't know where he is, and we've got Tracy coming up at 11. Oh, is he here now?
Yeah, he is.
All right, well, let's jump on right now. We have 10 minutes here, and kind enough to first time you're voting, young man, in the Buckeye State, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct, Brian Billick?
No, actually, it is the second time. I was able to get. We were just here back in 20. So yeah, I'm a veteran of the vote.
Okay, well, good. I'm glad you got out there and made your vote known. Want to hit a couple of topics real quick, because correct me if I'm wrong. I thought you went through a little bit of this when you were the head coach of the Baltimore Ravens. And I'm not sure every coach doesn't go through it. Jalen Ramsey comes out the other day, great cornerback, plays for the Rams, and he says, look, the reason we're not winning, plain and simple, is because our offense isn't any good. Sean McVay has said they got to go back to the drawing board, reevaluate everything. What is that like inside of a locker room when things like that start to happen?
It's tough because when things don't go well, that's where the fracture becomes, typically, offense, defense. And it's compounded by the fact that the head coach runs the offense. If you're a head coach that has coordinators and they orchestrate that side of it, you can certainly handle a little bit differently. But now that indictment of the offense is an indictment of Sean McVay as well. So that makes it doubly tough. And you're right. You go back and he's got to go back and go, we got to look at absolutely everything as to why now we're not being as productive as we are. I mean, Matthew Stafford. 40, and I would put it on just on Matthew Stafford because, even though he was not good, less than 50% completion, there's more to it. Now, are they kind of just doing the same thing and people kind of catch up with it and the assets they have to do it? Those are legitimate questions. And you got to answer them pretty quick as to, okay, should we run more, run less, run more of this type, do more verticals? Are you not matched up with what the scheme is to what the personnel you have? So he's got his hands full. And the fact that the players are calling out always makes it tough.
If you're the head coach right now in Green Bay, your chances of winning the division are basically done. D-U-N, as I like to say. You've heard me say it a million times. I mean, they're 3-4 games back. Brian, this is a sinking ship. And Aaron Rodgers does not look good. They drafted the kid in the first round 2 years ago. You're right at the midway point through the season. You look at all the potential wild card teams out there, and I know this sounds almost blasphemous to think that you would phone it in with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback on your team. But if you're in Green Bay, do you have to give any consideration at all yet to maybe seeing the backup guy as your future?
Only if you are totally committed and understand that you're done with Aaron Rodgers. There's no way you can go to Jordan Love saying, well, let's, particularly this early, and, we're approaching the midway part of the season, week 9. But that's a lot of football left to be played. So you're basically going to throw up the white flag, even though, as you just laid out, it's probably, if you're not out of it, you can see it from here, to think that all of a sudden you're going to turn it around. And you could. But you're talking about Aaron Rodgers, someone who's not real happy about his situation in Green Bay anyway over the last couple of years. Yeah, I mean, that would have to be a fundamental organizational decision that says we're moving on from Aaron Rodgers, because there's no, okay, we're going to do this and then come back with Aaron next year. That's just totally inconceivable.
What was your reaction to the news about Frank Reich and the guy who's now replacing him, Jeff Saturday, taking over as interim coach?
It is what it is. As a coach, I'm embarrassed that ownership would think that you can just plug anybody in. No disrespect to Jeff Saturday. He's a longtime player. I'm sure has an excellent perspective on the game. But it says to me, at least in this instance, that management really doesn't think coaching involves a lot, and just about anybody can do it. Now that's from a coach's perspective. So when you plug someone in like that and just say, well, yeah, anybody can do that, and we'll just plug someone in, and all of a sudden, with no experience whatsoever outside of playing experience, Jeff Saturday could possibly be a great coach. And I always loved bringing former players into the profession that wanted to commit to the profession, kind of build your chops on, okay, this is what it takes to coach, because there is something to it now. It's to me, it's very disrespectful.
We were talking about, Frank Reich a little bit, and the fact that Brian and you went through a stretch with some of this, not to this extent, but I mean, the guy's been there and he's had to use 7 different starting quarterbacks, and he still found a way to be 7 games over 500. I mean, we're not talking about some guy who, they're 26-41 and okay, it's time to make a change. I would imagine that Frank Reich is one of those kind of guys that's going to get a chance again somewhere else, don't you think? I thought the guy did a decent job. We brought up earlier, the last 2 games of last season is what really, I think, put the nail in the coffin on this guy, when all they had to do was win one of the last 2, and they'd have been in the playoffs, and they lost them both, including a humiliating game at Jacksonville, the last game of the year. But I still think this guy's a good coach.
Yeah, there's no, he is. Every coach that's been fired is basically a good coach. He wouldn't have gotten the job if he wasn't a good coach. It just didn't work out. No, you can't go through that litany of quarterbacks, and you pointed out with my, record as well, that it doesn't eventually catch up with you. If you're going to have any sustained success in the NFL, you have to align and hit at that quarterback position and let it run for a while. Coaches that last a while. The job that he's done, and he has done a good job with a number of different quarterbacks, but just the fact that you've had that go round, that inevitably, I can't think of a single coach of any longevity that was on that treadmill that eventually didn't get fired, and then that's ultimately the reason. And you can look back and say, well, maybe we should have gotten a guy and developed him. Again, okay, if you get the right guy, and he came in with luck, did he not? So he thought he was coming. Okay, yeah, I'm going to have that, and then all of a sudden it changed. So yeah, it shows you that there's a lot of different ways to do it. But typically, if you're going to last in this league, when you get the job, you get it in the first year. Maybe sometimes you can get it in the second year. You get that guy, you draft him, and develop him. And if you're going to be successful, then you're on a good run. If you get the right guy, which 50% of the time you don't, and then you're out of a job anyway.
Last thing I wanted to ask you about is what it must be like right now if you're Sean McDermott in Buffalo. You've got a team that is built to win, right now, and a lot of that is built upon the back and the shoulders, and in this case, the right elbow of Josh Allen. What is it like during the week when now all of a sudden, you're sending this guy off for an MRI, maybe he's asking for a second opinion, you're having to decide, well, can we run him out there this week? That's got to be a very tense situation, I would imagine, right now in Buffalo.
Yeah, because you're right. Like any good team, whether it's Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes, whether it's Baltimore and Lamar Jackson, whether it's Jalen Hurst in Philadelphia, good teams that are winning, and now all of a sudden there's a question about that guy. That's going to shake your team to its foundation. Now they'll rally around it if it does turn out that he's going to be out for a while or an extended period. But because they're a good football team, but then you get into the playoffs, and can you make that run as well? So yeah, this is one that any other position you can kind of, okay, next man up, and we can wrap some things around it. But when you're talking about the quarterback position, and at a position where you had a dominant guy, and that's one of the reasons you're winning. Yeah, that organization is dealing with a lot right now.
All right, my friend. Well, thank you as always for your time. Great to see you. Enjoy the sunshine up there in Columbus, and we'll catch up again next week.
All right, we'll do it, man.
All right, buddy. Brian Billick, kind enough to join us each and every week right here on the program. We certainly appreciate his time very, very much. We're going to take a break, and then we call it the best 30 minutes in television. I don't know if this week Tracy Jones is going to be joining us, if he extended his vacation down in Florida, or whether he's back in his palatial penthouse in Bellevue. We're about to find out. Stick around.
At United Dairy Farmers, we've perfected freshness in our family bakery, where we use only the finest ingredients, like thick, high-quality glazes on our signature donuts, before delivering them fresh from bakery to store every day. UDF, made for you.
If your AC or furnace is struggling, turn to the experts at Bartell's Heating and Cooling. Their certified technicians get the job done right the first time, and if you need a new unit, Bartell's will give you upfront pricing with no hidden fees. Plus, ask about Bartell's 0% interest financing for 60 months. Learn more at bartellsheatingandcooling.com. Bartell's Heating and Cooling, for a comfortable way of life. Eli's Sports Bar and Grill, proudly sponsoring high school football with 3 locations in Mason, Liberty Township, and Ross, Ohio. Our 10-foot screens guarantee a great view from every seat in the house. Eli's Sports Bar and Grill, the best place in Cincinnati for sports, food, and fun.
Where can you turn when you're in pain? Turn where more high school, college, and pro athletes turn. Where your neighbors and weekend warriors turn. Turn to Beacon Orthopedics and Sports Medicine and get superior care on your schedule. That's the Beacon difference.
Check out our fresh arrivals at Jake Swinney Used Cars. Over 250 used vehicles weekly. All makes, all models. From economy to luxury, Jake Swinney, the original used car superstore.
And you look this up in a medical book, he's got FSB.
FS what?
FSB. It's short for fatal sperm backup.
Oh, my God.
Thom, see, the married men know what I'm talking about. I didn't have this until I got married, but I've got the affliction a little bit at times.
All right, welcome back to Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. We call it the best 30 minutes in television, twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays. Our good friend, Tracy Jones. Tracer, where are you this week? How are you doing today?
I'm still in Florida, still at Minnesota Key. I'm going to be here for another 2 weeks. We've had a situation where we had the Red Sea. What is it called? When you got more algae?
The red tide.
Red tide.
Yeah.
Thank you. A red tide, and there's a lot of dead fish.
Yeah.
A lot of dead crabs, and it's kind of sad.
It is sad.
And it smells too.
Yes,
it bad.
It is really bad for those that have not experienced it. It, for lack of a better term, it's some kind of, the water gets stirred up and some kind of bacteria and the fish die and they come up to shore, and it really is. It's sad. So are you not allowed to get in the water?
Well, can I be brutally honest?
Water?
I don't want to get in the water. I don't like stepping on fish. I don't like stepping on crabs. Things are hitting my leg. I saw a dead eel actually out on shore.
Wow.
Yeah, so a puffer fish. It's kind of ugly. So it's just one more thing I can complain about, Tom. And I love to complain.
Have the accommodation, well, first of all, because we've talked about the accommodations a little bit, but did family kind of come in? Because, when you know how it goes, Trace, all the best laid plans, right? Family, you love them, you can't wait to see them, and then everybody shows up, and not always so grand. Where are you with all that?
Everybody canceled. Everyone canceled. And let me just say this, because we really haven't touched on this. That storm, that hurricane that hit, It hit Minnesota Key. It hit in Inglewood, Florida. So you have debris. This is really sad. We're getting some sad stuff here, Tom. That debris on the street is probably 10 feet high.
Yeah.
Really took a hit. So it's just sad for a lot of people. So there's a lot going on here, and I should have canceled my trip, and I didn't. That was my mistake.
Why should you have canceled your trip?
Well, because half the restaurants are closed. The beach is bad. There's trees down everywhere. The internet doesn't work. It got hit, and I'm not really enjoying myself. It's tough to compare this to Bellevue. I mean, Bellevue is such a cool place and such a happening place. I just want to go home. I'm ready to go home. But I still got 2 more weeks left.
Well, I was going to say, you still got 2 more weeks. I want to get into something serious with you here for a second. Because, the World Series, you and I touched on this last week about the whole Aaron Nola, Zach Wheeler thing, where they're starting to show some cracks and running out of steam, getting near to the end of the year. Was Verlander running out of steam? I want to ask you a serious question. When you're going through it, or when all is said and done, do teammates, and maybe you don't express it to another teammate, but do teammates, they in this case, the Phillies, do they kind of look, when they get back home and maybe they're talking to their wife or they're talking to a couple of buddies who are in town for the World Series, whatever it might be,
yeah.
Do they sit there and get down on other teammates who don't deliver when it means the most?
I don't think so. I think you've been through so much during the season. You have that bond. They had a great year. I mean, they came from one of the wild card teams to actually be in the World Series. Just watching, and I know this is going to sound really bad because I'm not one of these guys, but the Phillies, to me, looked like they had really good chemistry. I don't like to use that word, but it seemed like they really liked each other and rooted each other on. But they just came across a better team. The Astros are a better team. And Tom, if you remember, I made that prediction, right? The Astros. Am I right or I'm wrong?
You did, and that's one of the reasons we have you on the show. I don't know if we ever told you this or not, but one of the reasons we have you on this show is because of your ability to see things that a lot of the rest of us just simply don't see.
Bingo! And that's going to bring me up to my next topic is not only does it work with baseball, but it also works with politics. And, of course, this being election day is huge. Do you not agree, Tom?
Tracy, before you came on, they had asked me, Paul and Casey, the Ham and Eggers, had asked me about, tonight with Ohio University playing Miami of Ohio, my alma mater, OU, just up the road in Oxford. Was I going to go to the game, watch the game? I said, this is one of my favorite nights of the year. I like just settling in front of the TV and like following all of the political, the voting that comes in and everything going on. I really look forward to this night every couple of years.
Yep, me too.
And I'm sure you are too.
I am. And let me just make a couple predictions here. And you guys are just going to shake your head because we'll be talking about this on Thursday. The Republicans will win the House. I think that's a given.
Yes.
Now, on the Senate side, I'm a little shaky about 3 states that could go either way. I'll make this prediction. We will not know in 2 or 3 days if the Republicans or the Democrats won that Senate race. You know why? Little controversy, right? We're still counting ballots. We'll be counting hanging chads. And it'll just be ridiculous. And I worry about people really getting upset about this. I mean, you could have an election in Guatemala, right, the president? And you can count the votes in 1 day. You did that in Brazil about 2 weeks ago. But you can't do it here in the United States.
Well, the thing that I find interesting, the thing that I find interesting, and I read a long story about this a number of months ago, because look, depending on who thinks they're going to win or who thinks they're going to lose or whatever it might be, you'll get both sides complaining about this. Were we counting dead people's votes? Were we doing it?
Right.
There are very few things in the world that I would want the United States to emulate as it pertains to the country of France, because we have been carrying their tail for the better part of 100 years on multiple fronts, okay? But in France, they only have paper ballots. There are no voting machines. There is none of that nonsense. They found out that there might be something to voting machines. They might be subject to some kind of hacking and all these kinds of things. So the French decided years ago, and to go with what you're saying, the French decided, here's a ballot, fill it out, and we're going to add them up. That's what we're doing from now on, and you can release who won and who lost by the end of every single voting day.
Just simplifying things, right? Other countries can do it. Why can't we? I mean, how about the whole voter ID? And that was racist. How insulting for black people, I thought. I mean, you have to show an ID to check out a library book, your license. You have to have ID. And for people to call that into question is just, you got to shake your head. And let me just say this, and I don't want to open up a can of worms, but those liberal Democrats are vicious and mean-spirited and angry people. Do you not agree with that, Thom?
Tracer, I sit here and I'm doing my best to just I'm gonna just try to stay focused down the middle. I think it's pretty evident in most of the things that I talk about that I feel like people would be able to figure out which way I might be more than leaning. That would not be the accurate word, leaning.
Right.
But I think that when it comes to this part, there are a lot of nasty people on both sides. I will say that.
Well,
I think there are a lot of nasty people out there. I really do.
Okay.
I mean, some of the things they say about each other and the way that, sometimes a lot of these people on both sides are just going out of their way to say nasty things about other people. And I don't think that's the way this whole thing is designed to work.
Man, I got to disagree with you, Thom. I really do. And let me give you an example of the difference and how mean and angry the liberal Democrats. My wife said the same thing as you. Talking about, they're equal, going back and forth.
No, I did not say they were equal. I didn't say that. I said both sides do it.
Both sides. I said, well, let me prove something to you, Danae. I said, let me get a bumper sticker and put a vote for Joe Biden on the bumper sticker. And you could drive your car around. She did for a week. And we were in California when she did this. Nothing happened to her car. One of those ride with Biden bumper stickers. And then I says, okay, nothing happened. She says, yeah, nothing happened. I said, okay, watch this. I put a bumper sticker, Trump 2024 for president, on her mom's car, on the back of her mom's car. She drove that car around for a week. Do you know they had so many dents in that car, they had to sell it for scrap? Can you believe that?
Why would you put that on your mother-in-law's car? Why not put it on your car?
Because I didn't want my car damaged. I was trying to prove a point to my wife. I mean, the people were spitting on it, just putting dents all over the car. This is the people I'm talking about. This is the mean-spirited Biden voters are.
But you're down there in Florida country now. I mean, you're down there. And look, you couldn't have been happy with Donald Trump using the nickname for Ron DeSantis, who's done an incredible job down there in Florida. I mean,
yes, he has.
They're talking about, Miami-Dade County, tons of Latino voters, African-American voters, for the first time in 40-plus years, flipping Republican in a gubernatorial race, which hasn't happened forever because he relates to the blue-collar, the common man out there. And for Trump to take that shot the other day at DeSantis, giving him a nickname, DeSanctimonious, that's what I'm talking about. That stuff happened on both sides. That's what I mean, Tracy. That's what I mean.
I know. And Trump he's so thin-skinned. He just can't, and I like him. I like his policies. But he is so thin-skinned. DeSantis has done such a great job here in Florida. Do you know they never shut this state down? You were never forced to wear a mask. I mean, I asked someone the other day at Winn-Dixie, I said, did you guys ever have to wear a mask coming into the grocery store? And they said no. He's done a great job. I tell you who, just my take, I think Trump is going to have Carrie Lake as his running mate. That's my take.
I've known Carrie Lake. I've known Carrie Lake a long time. When I was out there living in Arizona, she was a news anchor forever. She would be like here in Cincinnati, Cherie Palello, or somebody like that, or Norma Rashid back in the day. It'd be like her, Kid Andrews, or somebody like that. Yep. It would be like one of those ladies running for governor in the state of Ohio. She is very smart, really likable woman. Whether you're going to vote for or not, but she's very likable woman. A lot of people who are watching our show right now, Tracy, are wondering why not a ticket of Trump Jones in 2024.
I was president of my junior high. I will say I ran against the most popular girl, Sue Camus, and I beat her. It was pretty close, what they say, but I was president of my junior high. Of course, I wasn't president of a fraternity like some people, but I like Trump's policies. I don't believe in open borders, energy independent. Are you one of those guys that worry about Ukraine's border and you don't worry about our border?
No, I'm definitely not one of those guys. No.
Are you one of those guys that want to get a booster shot every other week? I bet you Casey's, I'm just going to guess this. I bet you Casey's wife is a big-time lib and says, you know what?
Why are you beating up on his wife? Why do you beat up on Casey, not his wife?
Well, I know, but she's a liberal. Let's say she's just a liberal, and she's probably Casey. How many booster shots have you had, Casey?
Me, I have only had the one initial shot and then a booster.
Oh, God.
See, Tracer,
and still got COVID.
I did, but I had to for work. My job back then was freelancing. All
right, well, let me ask you this, then, Casey. Let me ask you this, because no one in my family got it. And including our kids.
The shot or COVID?
Any of it. The shot. None of it, right? None of it.
Oh, okay.
I did only because my only chance, if I was ever going to get rehired again, was I had to have a shot, and that's the only reason I did it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have done it. And look, I'm not telling any of you how to do it. I'm not a doctor. But don't tell me what to do either.
Hell no.
I would have never taken the shot if that, I would have never done it. But I had to for work. If I wanted to continue going to Bengals games, working that, I had to do it.
Yep.
Personally, in my life, my dad, who took the first shot, he was bad. He was in rough shape after taking it.
Right.
So I don't fault anyone for not wanting to take it, but it was really – I struggled a little bit being forced to take it. to work.
Yeah,
it's tough.
You know what's criminal?
What about you didn't ask Paul, the other part of the ham and egger. Paul, I'm assuming you've had. How many of you had, Paul?
Well,
of course.
Well, I was supposed to get the shot, and then a week before I got the shot, I ended up having to get the two of them for work. But the week before I got it in January of a year ago, I actually got COVID, and I'm still almost 2 years later, and I can barely taste and smell. It's been brutal.
Yeah,
it's been tough.
Yeah.
But I did end up getting them both, for work too.
Here's the point, right? Because the President of the United States said it, the head of the NIH said it, Fauci, the midget Fauci, he said it. If you get the shot, you don't get COVID, right? Did they not say that, Tom?
That's what they said.
And you did. Was it worth shutting down the economy?
I was with a guy the other day down in Texas visiting my daughter in college, who is a gym owner in New York.
Yeah.
His business completely gone.
Done.
Gone.
Yeah.
D-U-N. All right, so now look, let's shift gears here for a minute. I want to ask you, are you following college football at all?
I'll be honest with you, not like I should. Is there something you want to ask me? Because I wasn't.
Yeah, because I want to ask you, you're a California guy, okay? You're one of those Southern California guys, right? And you were a football player.
Don't be jealous.
I regularly beat up on this program when the topic arises. And I don't think it's worth spending a lot of time talking about the Pac-12. But I got to tell you, Tracer, they don't play football in the Pac-12 like they play football in the SEC and the Big Ten and the Big 12. I look at teams like UCLA and Oregon and these teams being ranked in the top 10. I mean, come on, Tracer. You're a Midwest guy now, Tracer. Come on now.
Yeah, let's talk about the Big Ten going back a few years ago. I know I'm kind of changing subjects on you, but remember the Pac-10? Remember the six-pack or whatever? How they used to beat the hell out of Woody Hayes' and Bo Schembechler's teams?
That's 1,000 years ago, Trey.
It's not 1,000 years ago. It's only like 40 or 50 years ago. But, my point is, back in the old days, West Coast football used to be pretty good. I don't know what happens to them. I don't know how you can't recruit top players to go to Southern California. I mean, it's a great place. How does UC in that stinky area get players and someone in Westwood?
Wait a minute now. What do you mean stinky area? What does
that
mean?
Area? Well,
Clifton's
it's not a very nice
man.
area.
Clifton's getting better by the day. They got a great stadium. They got great complex. They got it going on.
Okay, you've been to Westwood, right? UCLA.
I have.
Okay. What do you think? Who do you think offers more, UCLA or UC? And that's a hats off to the coaches because they're able to recruit good players. I don't know what happens to the West Coast. I don't, because they should have pretty good football, and they haven't had it for 40 or 50 years. I was going way, way, way back.
So are you like a USC guy or a UCLA guy?
I was always an SC guy. I was always an Anthony Davis, Pat Hayden, Todd Marinovich.
OJ.
I like you.
OJ.
Oh, yeah, OJ was in there. But it's not the same. It's not the same, and they're still having trouble. I mean, they're doing better, but they have trouble keeping coaches, right? At
yeah,
USC.
well, they got one at SC now. Well, he's going to be there a long time. Lincoln Riley. They gave him whatever it was, 10-year, $100 million deal, something insane. Yes, Paul, please chime in.
Yeah, well, we had something for you here, Tracy. So I don't know if you can see the screen, but we have some Tracy Jones rookie cards down here on the desk, and we were going to have to sell Chatterbox Sports, but then they came back to us and that they said that they wanted all of our assets for the company, and then we said, no, that's a deal breaker. So the Tracy Jones rookie cards here are keeping us afloat. Oh God.
Did we lose them for a second?
There they are.
Yeah.
There.
Can you see him, Tracer?
We got you. Can you see him?
Yeah, I see him. Is that another shot at me? You guys making fun of me that they're only 50 cents? if I sign those cards, they'll be worth $5. That's not bad, right?
That's not bad. It's better than 50 cents.
That's enough for my ham and egg sandwich.
Those are big-time cards, Tracer. That's you in action, man. You were cut up. I mean, you were all ripped up, looking good.
Yeah. That was a long, long time ago. That was a long time ago. You guys really like to hit me here, don't you? Talk about the past. I don't like to talk about.
Why would the ham and eggers do that to Tracy Jones?
Yeah, look at that.
Yeah, here's some memories for you.
There they are, Tracer.
There they are.
Oh,
look at that shot on the left. That's a knock, no doubt. That's a knock.
That's a ground ball to shortstop. Make a right turn back to the dugout. I rolled over on that pitch. I remember. That's some great memories. See that 57 right there? I wasn't supposed to make the team out of spring training. You know that, right?
Yeah.
But when you hit 368, and I was the last guy to make it on that ball club. And when everyone got on the bus, I actually asked Pete, did I make the club? I had to ask because I didn't know. No one told me I made it or didn't make it. He says, let me tell you something, Trace. I'm going to give you some advice. I'd get your ass on that bus before I changed my mind. Got up and went north. That's a true story.
So wait a minute. You get to the last day, and for people who don't understand this, and I know it's changed a little bit.
Yeah.
Because communication is such a big thing now. But you mean to tell me you play in the last spring training game, and after the game, the team is getting on a plane and quote-unquote breaking camp, and they're flying back to Cincinnati to have opening day. You mean to tell
getting on a bus?
You mean to tell me the game ends and you don't know? I mean, I'm assuming because camp was ending, your bags were packed or whatever it might be to go wherever. Obviously, you hope for the big league team. You mean to tell me nobody in the Reds organization had told you were on the major league team after the last game?
Tom, you remember back in the old days, they would wait to the last day to add that last player sometimes. Do you remember, right?
I do.
Are they going to bring an extra pitcher? Are they going to bring an outfielder, an infielder? How about a third catcher? And that decision was made like the last day. So I packed my bags, and after the game, I was like, because I wasn't supposed to make it. When you're given the number 57, you're not supposed to make the team, let me tell you. And I just really, really hit, and Pete liked me. And to hear that story, a couple of the people in the organization wanted to send me to AAA, and it was Pete that stuck up for me and that I made the ball club. And then, of course, the first play of the game, I misplayed it. Remember, Gary Ritas got a triple, and we were down 3-0. And everybody started booing me, and I thought, there goes my career.
Yeah, but then when you got up there at the plate with bat in hand, you were doing damage.
Oh, didn't I? Man,
you
got that knock off Steve Carlton. I stole second base, Tom, and you know what? There wasn't a damn thing they could do about it. Hey, before we leave, are we running out of time here?
Yeah, but go ahead.
Okay, just one more. Can I say one more thing?
Yes.
I know that your mother-in-law doesn't really like me. Okay?
That's not true. But go ahead.
She's a college professor, right?
She was, not anymore.
Okay. So she's probably a liberal. I tell you what, just do me a favor and stick one of those Trump for President 2024 on the back of her bumper and just see what happens. Make that point to your mother-in-law, will you please? Like I made the point, these liberals are mean, mean people, Tom.
I will. You know what? That might actually be kind of fun to do that to her car. So I may take you up on that.
I thought you liked her.
Well, that would be kind of fun, though. I do like her, but that would be kind of fun. All right, Tracer, enjoy the red tide and enjoy the Florida sunshine.
All right. See you, boys. I'll see you on Thursday.
Later.
See you, Tracy.
See you, Tracy.
Ham and Eggers.
See you, Tracy.
So long. He says so long, the Tracer. All right, do we have a cherry on top?
We do. This one's pretty funny. This one's pretty good.
Presented by United Dairy Farmers. What is it?
Yeah, this has been making the rounds on the internet today. We'll just call this one priorities. Throw it on up there. So this is a tweet, and it says, got engaged yesterday. Texted my buddy who is a football guy to let him know the news. He reminded me that he is indeed a football guy. So he texts his friend, hey, me and Alice are engaged. The response is, ref's been calling all kinds of bullshit just keeping Kansas City in the game. Our other guy goes, what the hell does that have to do with us getting engaged? Guy responds, oh, I thought you meant locked in on the game. Shaking my head, congratulations.
That's happened to all of us, has it not? It's happened to all of us. It's happened to all of us.
Priorities.
There's one of those that goes around on the internet. You see it pop up every blue moon. I saved it on my phone years ago, or maybe a year or something ago, where the guy is talking about his wedding date, and it's the same date as a game. You know what I'm talking about? And it says something like, got 2 tickets to the game, but my wedding date is on this day.
Oh, yeah,
You know what I'm talking? I can't remember what it was, but it's something like that.
Well, it's also the same as that one tweet where the wife says, how's Steph? And the guy responds, not good, hurt his knee, could be out a while. And the wife says, what? And he goes, what? And she goes, I was talking about our daughter, not Steph Curry.
That's a good one. That's a good one. All right, do we have any final thoughts from anybody here?
No, I don't think so.
No final thoughts.
Okay. All right. I knew Trace was coming on today with the whole political thing, I guess. Right? We knew that was coming. Right?
You had to know the politics
we knew
were
that
coming
was
out
coming.
today.
We knew that was coming. And don't anybody get all uptight about anything, okay? We're just sitting here, and he's saying what he's saying. It's all right. Relax. Okay, relax. Everybody get out and vote today, though. Regardless of which person you're voting for, we are blessed to have that right to vote in the United States of America. Right?
Absolutely.
So have you guys voted yet? Probably later?
I'm doing it on my way home today.
Okay. Casey?
Same.
Good. You have to go back to your old neighborhood to vote, though?
Yes.
I think that's one of the things on the ballot. One of the issues here in Hamilton County is that you don't have to go to the exact polling place anymore, that if you're a resident of Hamilton County, you can go vote anywhere. I think that's one of the issues.
Really? Oh, that'd be huge.
I could be wrong on that. I could be wrong, but I think I was looking through it last night a little bit. Okay. All right. And the dunce over there, he probably have you voted yet?
No. But we have a podcast tonight with Ricky Williams.
Oh, that's true.
Ricky
Mental games.
Williams, tonight at 8 o'clock.
Yep.
8 p.
Ricky
Williams. He, the former great Texas running back, turned Miami Dolphin, New Orleans Saints, I think, right? Both of them?
Yep.
Great player. Great player.
Guy.
Mental Game Podcast, YouTube, podcast networks, everywhere.
Any other programming notes before we go?
My college basketball show will launch this afternoon, if we can think of a name. If we can, I'm going to have to go through this chat and see if we have any.
You got a lot of good ones on.
Got a lot of suggestions in the chat, so I'm going to go look.
We thank everybody for participating. We thank, as always, everybody for watching. We thank Casey and Paul for all their outstanding work. Watch Brandon tonight at 8 o'clock, or you can download it on a podcast. If maybe you're watching the Ohio University Bobcats in Maction, go up the road to Oxford and give the Red Hawks a tail kicking tonight. We'll see you tomorrow.